What's up, Jdentita Alberto here. Got all your Juve news, the latest on transfer rumors, as we have interest for Moise Kean. We have a new target to add to Juve's target list, an old target, which is actually raising the question of who is this team being built for next season. And then, of course, we're going to get into what went down yesterday with Jdentita Bianconera and their issued complaint to FIGC prosecutors, and then Max's presser ahead of the match tomorrow against Fiorentina. All that and more. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is the AJC. Let's rock. First things first, Gazzetta reports that Giuntoli will in fact be making a move for Mason Greenwood. All right, you guys know how I feel about this one. I don't even like being linked with this player. I hope we stay away from it, but apparently Giuntoli will make a push to try and bring in the player. For Moise Kean, he has 3 clubs in Italy interested. All right, Genoa, Bologna, and Fiorentina are the 3 clubs showing interest in the player and might make a move to sign him this summer. I think it's going to be a very difficult piece of business for Juventus to get what they want to see out of this one, but they do have to find a solution, and I do believe we need to move on. All right, in terms of a new target for Juventus, we are apparently monitoring Lille's winger Eden Žegrova. All right, so add him to the target list for Juventus, and then you have an old target creeping up again, but a big one, having a great season, Xerxes of Bologna. Again, Juve listed as still monitoring the player, despite a lot of rumors around him being close to Milan and heading to Milan. Apparently, Giuntoli is still working and monitoring the situation around Xerxes. This one, as opposed to Retegui, who has been linked with Juventus, we have always seen as and has been listed as a vice Vlahovic. But if you're bringing in Xerxes, does this mean we're moving away from Dusan Vlahovic? What does this mean? Are we staying with a front 2? Because I do believe Xerxes is not your typical 9 and could play alongside Vlahovic. It raises some interesting questions about who is this team being built for, and we are going to get mixed signals on that one right down till the end of the season, heading into the summer, because Motta is being linked as still quite easily remaining at Bologna, guiding them into Champions League. All right, and as far as Allegri goes, well, the latest is Marco Tardelli stating that he is hearing the team is being built for Max Allegri. All right, so take it all with a grain of salt. We're going to ride this thing out together and strap on those seatbelts, because it's going to be one hell of a bumpy ride, and we won't know anything until the summer. All right, as far as contract extensions with Juventus, Rugani very close to finalizing his, will be reduced salary. For Chiesa, today the report suggests that we will see a bridge gap contract renewal of 1 year, and it's going to be at the same salary. I personally think that is the best decision to make. Okay, and now we get to what broke out yesterday in terms of very interesting news. The Fondazione Jdentita Bianconera, all right, so they filed a formal complaint with Public Prosecutor's Office, the prosecutors at FIGC, and Covisoc, the commissioning bodies over the clubs at FIGC. Their complaint was in terms of Inter's registration and questioning their business continuity. All right, and they hit on 3 key points in raising the question of whether their Serie A registration is valid. So right now, it's up to those to see how this complaint is received. But yeah, they may have to answer that, because they have kind of set a precedent. And I'll explain why. All the nonsense Juventus went through last season got to a point where we saw a Napoli fan club enter a courtroom and make ridiculous claims about revoking our Scudetti, giving them to them in the seasons they finished second, with a very weak basis of an argument. All right, so they've kind of set a precedent where they really should treat this properly and address it. I think they'll have to address it, and this is one of the key things to look at this. Okay, what this foundation is actually asking, and it's important to know about this foundation. This is, yes, a group of Juventus fans. This is a group completely independent from the club itself, but at its core has 20 lawyers as their members. All right, and what they have done, they have gone through in a very, very clean and proper fashion. They have solid key point arguments. They have not asked for anything ridiculous in terms of punishment. They haven't even listed any punishments or anything they'd like to see. They're just saying, answer us the question of if their registration is valid and you have in fact done all your checks based on these 3 key points. And can you prove that? That's all they're asking. This is good for the league as transparency is needed. And this is not the first group of fans that is calling this out or asking these questions. I've seen this come from multiple fan bases throughout this season. Casa Milan was raided like a month ago and looked at their deal between ownership changes and whatnot. And their fan base was asking, how come Inter hasn't been looked at for this run of 6 years financially? Look, other fan bases are asking for it. To our fans who think this might be a cringe move or why are they doing this whatsoever, hey, look, if you feel that way, then I basically don't ever want to hear you complain about Juve's treatment, any other clubs not being treated fairly. I don't want to hear you complain about transparency from the league or favoritism or how they're acting, because this is essentially what they're looking for. It's not so much the outcome. They haven't listed any penalties or anything. They just say, prove this to us and we are fine. In my opinion, there is nothing wrong with that. And the league should have offered this anyways when the rumblings were out there and everyone was raising questions. So for me, I see nothing wrong in it. And to be honest, it's not even so much the outcome of here that I really care about. It's how it's received from the prosecutor's end. Because if treated serious, which I think it should, because again, we had a group from Napoli enter a courtroom making ridiculous claims with a weak argument. This group, the Fondazione Jdentita Bianconera, has had a strong argument with 3 key points and has done so properly, respectively, all right? And it should be treated as such. I'm curious as to how it's going to be received and treated. And if it is, in fact, treated in a serious manner, which it should, in my opinion, then this is going to bode well for Juventus, who we have all agreed for a long time. And this goes to, again, those fans that might think this is cringe. You always complain about Juventus not fighting hard enough for itself. We may have possibly just gained a foundation that is willing to do that fight, and Juve could sit back and keep their hands clean. Let's see what happens from it, but I actually think it's important for the league as a whole and transparency. We'll see what happens. Now, Max's presser ahead of the game tomorrow against Fiorentina, all right? So this is what he hits us with. Milik, 15 to 20 days out still, okay? As far as he goes, he is the only one. The rest of the team is set to go and everyone else is available. Max says he's got no decision on lineup or formation. Tomorrow is a tough match, okay? But we have trained well and grown physically, he states, and is ready to go. There are reports suggesting that after the loss to Lazio in Serie A, before that Coppa Italia victory, Max hammered the team and called upon his leaders of Danilo, Tech, Sandro, and Rabiot to help in getting the attitude and energy, enthusiasm right with this team and not piss away the Coppa Italia and not piss away Champions League qualification, all right? Number one, my question there is, how on earth do you wait during this last stretch until that game to really do that and really hammer this team? Hopefully it was happening throughout that, okay? In terms of the leadership, look at that list. Danilo, Tech, Sandro, and Rabiot. That is your leadership group. That is a big lack, in my personal opinion. No disrespect to any of those guys, but that really, really tells a story of the leadership at Juventus, especially when you're looking at those players and looking at personal individual performances, okay? There are problems there. Projected lineup, here it is. Szczesny, Gatti, Bremer, Danilo, Cambiaso, McKennie, Locatelli, Rabiot, Kostic, Chiesa, and Vlahovic. It is the exact same as we saw in the Coppa Italia that we're expected to see tomorrow against Fiorentina. It is a must-win match. We got to get the job done in Serie A, all right? You guys know the drill. We're going to be live 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, getting you hyped up, ready for that match, and I am going to bring you a live watch-along. That's your news break to today. Can't wait to see you all on the live tomorrow morning. As always, fino alla fine, forza Juve, ciao tutti.